Yeah. Hello everybody who's here early. We still have about 2 minutes before we actually begin. So while you're waiting, I'd love to hear, in your chat box, let me know where you're from. That would be fun to see. And we'll get going. Got a good presentation today, I hope. I hope it's good. It'll be good for you anyway, on filters. So if you have any questions beforehand, items you want me to cover during this webinar, just feel free to send them over now, and that way I can gear my presentation to some of your questions. All right, welcome everyone to today's webinar. My name is Les Picker. We're broadcasting from Havre de Grace, Maryland, the historic town of Havre de Grace, Maryland. So today we're going to be talking about filters, but not all filters. What I'll be focusing on today will be polarizers, neutral density filters, and graduated neutral density filters. So I know there are tons of filter companies out there on the market today. I mean, you have Cokin Filters, we have high-tech format filters, the newer Kinesis Filters, and then of course the old standbys, Lee, Singh-Ray, and then a new company that I'll be talking about called Wine Country camera. And they produce these incredible filters. More on that later. So I thought we'd start simple and work our way up as we go through this. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to just write them in here. I think we already have, let's see, okay. So I'll be talking about, we have already some questions. Give me a few minutes to get into the topic and then I'll address those questions. I thought we'd start simple and work our way up. I will say at the outset, in the interest of full disclosure, I have no financial interest or backing from any of the companies I'll be talking about today. All of the filters that you see have been purchased out of my own pocket at a bloody fortune, which we'll talk about because price is an issue with these filters too. So let's get going, and as you have questions, ask them and I'll try to answer them in order. Before I get to answering, I see one question already about a specific filter system, which we'll get to in a little bit. Okay, so again, we're talking about polarizers, we'll be talking about neutral density filters and graduated neutral density. So the first question is, why use these neutral density or graduated neutral density filters? A neutral density filter is simply a way to block some of the light coming into your lens and subsequently to your sensor, and that allows you to have a longer exposure under most conditions. And so a neutral density filter will do the kinds of images that we really like, of slowing down water to get that nice feathery, milky effect, or slowing down clouds as they, or not slowing down, but showing the motion of clouds as they go across the sky. So you have a mountain that's nice and steady, and then you have the clouds going behind it, which gives a very ethereal effect, very effective, especially in bad weather, I might add.
You can use it to get rid of people on the streets too.
Yep, and as Bob points out, another great reason, I was going to get to this a little bit later, but I might as well talk about it now, is that it's a great way to eliminate people in a crowd shot. I'll give you an example. I wanted to take a photograph of Grand Central Station, inside Grand Central Station in New York City, and it's very, very crowded there. I wanted to eliminate the people, so I put on actually two neutral density filters. So I had a neutral density value of about 15 stops, and that allowed that whole motion of people going back and forth. It becomes a blur. You don't see people, and it all works out very, very nicely because the floor stays steady, and that comes through in the shot. So neutral density filters, very, very helpful. If you're going to use neutral density filters, and we'll get to graduated neutral density in a moment, you certainly can use circular neutral density filters. This one here, I think this is a 5-stop made by Singh-Ray. Here's a 10-stop, and they're perfectly good, especially if you want to travel light and you don't want to invest in a whole system, and all you need are neutral density filters. This works absolutely fine. But most of us need or would like to have both neutral density and graduated neutral density at our beck and call when we need them. So no question to use these. There's an issue with it that I just want to, I'm going to be giving you some tips and hints as we go along with this presentation. With any of these filters, you have to take the time to screw them on, take them out, screw them on, etc. I personally have lost 2 filters off cliffs during cold weather when it's hard to hold things and you're maybe using gloves. To get them on, they can slip off, and since they're made out of glass, they will break, they'll shatter. So I've come up with an interesting solution, which I'm going to tell you about. There's a company that is, again, I have no affiliation with them, called Xume, X-U-M-E. And these are called quick release adapters. I want to give you an example of one. I'll show you this. Let me just screw you would have this already screwed on to all your filters, one for each filter, and then one for each lens size. So like this is a 77 millimeter diameter lens, but if you have a 72 or an 83, you would need a different mount for that, as well as for the filters that fit it. But watch this. This is really quite incredible. All you do to dismount is that, and listen to the click when it goes back in. Clicks right back in. It's magnetized, works perfectly. It never falls off. I've had it under extreme conditions. So it's an investment because you need one for every filter. You need one for every size lens that you have. But it works well. And they also have a magnetized lens cap. That's it. It goes right on. You don't have to worry about getting your lens cap on correctly. Sometimes when you squeeze these things, they don't go on quite right. But anyway, interesting concept is this, these Xume filters. So a little tip, if you're interested in that, I'm going to put my camera away for later. All of these, so anyway, that's circular filters. Unless you have any questions, I'm going to move on and talk about systems at this point. The first system I want to talk about is the Koken system. It's a very simple system, very good if you have a smaller camera. It can work with a DSLR too. And the Koken system mounts on a lens. Bob, if you want to head back down here, the next series is going to be all about how to mount this. So I'm taking off my lens cap, and you see here my a lens here. To use any of these systems, the next 2 systems I'm about to show you, actually the next 3 systems, I'm going to, you need to have an adapter that will allow the system to mount on your lens. So you have to get a series of rings like these, which I purchased as a set. They're very inexpensive, so that it fits any lens diameter that you happen to own. This one is a 72 millimeter lens, so I'm just going to put this this thing on. Get it screwed on now. There. The next step is to take the filter holder itself. It's a plastic device. You can see it right here. And it either comes with room for 3 filters to fit or 2 filters to fit. I never use more than 2 filters at one time on my with my work, because I feel it degrades the image once you get beyond 2 filters blocking the light coming in. And then this thing has a I don't know, a track, I will call it, and that mounts right on the thing, the adapter that I just screwed on the lens. Now listen in for the click. It clicks right on to the thing, and it's very firm, right? The next thing is that you take one of these filters, and let me just get a couple here. This is a graduated neutral density. So now let me switch to talking to you about graduated neutral density filters. As opposed to a neutral density filter, which is completely, how do I want to say it, consistent throughout, it blocks the light throughout the entire filter. A graduated neutral density filter is graduated in that it's only dark on the top and light on the bottom. Now, why do we use that? The reason we use it is because, frankly, cameras are kind of stupid. It will give you an average reading, and if you expose for the highlights in the image, then the foreground will, the darker parts will go absolutely black. If you expose for the shadows, then you're going to have blown out highlights. So you use a filter like this, and I'll try to face it to the light so you can see what happens here. Let's see, there we go. As you push it down, that will start blocking the light. So now think about that. What's going to happen is you can hold back light in the sky while allowing all the full light to come in through the foreground or the forest or whatever it is that you're photographing. And by balancing that, you can get a really, really good exposure. Now, people say, well, you know, I can do that in post-processing. Yes, to some extent you can. I prefer to have it done in camera while I'm on the site, make sure that I have the image that I really want to have. And you move it down to wherever. You would be typically mounted on a tripod, but you don't have to be. You can hand hold and get very good shots that way. If the graduated neutral density that you're using is not strong enough, then you are, of course, always welcome to use a second one in one of the slots. And then you would double them up or stagger them a little bit to get the effect that you want. All right? So that is a system that Koken has available. I should, what was I going to mention here also? Koken also has this little attachment. It's a little piece of plastic that goes into the slot closest. You can't fit a filter into it, but you can fit one of these things into it. And once you get it in here, it serves as a lens cap, if you will. So you can keep this thing mounted on your lens as you walk around, and then when you're ready to shoot, you just pull it out. Assuming I can pull it out there, and you're ready to continue shooting. All right? So that's the Koken system. Works well. These filters are made out of a polycarbonate material, but you can get them in glass also. I'm going to talk to you about one of the major problems with these filters in a moment. Let me finish first showing you a couple of more options, and then we can move on. I'll take this one off. All right. And another thing I'll mention before I even move on is that you'll probably want to have a filter hive, they call it, or a filter bag. These things come, this one is made by Mindshift. I like that. It's extremely light, and it has slots where you can fit in your filters in there. All right. The filters, and it even has slots for circular filters too, so it's very convenient to have one of these if you're interested. I should also mention that the filters come in two sizes for the Kokin system. You have a rectangular 80 by 120 approximately millimeter filter, and then you have the square filters. So whichever you wish to use works. I like the rectangular because it gives you a little bit more room as you pull it up and down in front of your camera. More gradation, if you will. Some people, by the way, use these without the filter holder. I don't necessarily recommend that because you can scratch the filter more easily by holding it against the lens. You have to have it close, actually touching the lens, otherwise light leaks in from the side. So you want to be sure that you're tight against the lens there. Another thing I will mention while I have it out is that you can adjust this sideways. In other words, if you have a mountain scene where the mountains are all the way up in your frame on the right, but gradually go down to the left, then you would just simply tilt your filter holder to suit. Very simple to use, really very interesting. All right, let me see, let's go to a couple of questions here. We're asked a question about the HIDA filter system. I'm not going to get into that right now. Very interesting question. Someone asked, do you think I should replace my Lee neutral density filters because of their color cast and replace them with the new IR&D filters, the infrared? I am going to address that very thing when I get to the third filter system that I'll be talking about, okay? So let me move on. And one more question. All right. We had someone from a person whose opinion I respect greatly. Steve Sattler says that he doesn't recommend the Xume system because he's had one fall off. Sorry to hear that. I have not had that happen. But then again, the screw-on filters, I've had two that have fallen, very, very expensive filters. They were between $300 and $400 each. So, you know, I think it really...
Like most camera things, you need to find out what works best.
Yeah, you know, you have to experiment with it and see which works best. But I have to tell you that I find the Xume where it's very easy to use. Anyway, let's move on. And I want to talk about two systems that work very, very similarly. You probably have all heard of Lee filters, and you probably have heard of Singh-Ray filters. I've worked with Singh-Ray and Lee both. I've used them for years and years. I used to know Bob Singh when he ran the company. So definitely two very popular and well-known systems. They work very similarly. I'm going to use this lens here. And again, they come with these different rings that you use. This is an 82 millimeter lens, wide angle Fuji non-lens. So I'm going to use this one to demonstrate the Lee filter system. The Lee filter system, you attach the ring just like before. And if you want to come down, Bob, closer in, you can. The Lee system is very good to use, very easy. Again, very light. And you can you can add filter slots if you wish. It comes with, I think, 1 or 2. I have 2. As I said, this is customized for me, for my use. I don't like to have any more than 2 filters on at any one time. But all you do is just hook it onto one side, pull this lever here, and bango, the thing is set. You can rotate it again, just like any of the others. And this system uses a larger filter set. So you can see the size of these filters compared to the Kokens that I showed you. There they are. Now Koken may make larger ones now. I am just really not sure of it, but these are ones that I've used for years and years and years. Again, a graduated neutral density. And all I do is put that in here, and I'm ready to go. I can just tilt it to get the right amount of blockage that I need, and I'm set. I can also use a complete neutral density. So this is a 4-stop neutral density from Singh-Ray, and it just goes in like that, and I've got 4 stops of light withheld coming into my camera. I'm going to talk about the issue that the gentleman raised in just a minute. Here's Lee filters. They're the same, very, very similar. Here are the Lee filters. The same thing goes in into a Lee adapter. So it works very conveniently. You mount it. You go up and down to block out the light that you want, and everything should theoretically work well. Okay, I'm going to, so there's a Lee system, there's a Singh-Ray system. Singh-Ray filters will fit into the Lee filter, as you can see.
Well, they're 100 millimeter, right?
These things are 100 millimeters wide by 150 millimeters in length. So you have a lot of room to maneuver. I shoot medium format, and I find that I need that width and length. It's really quite helpful if you have if you have a medium format or a DSLR. It's a good idea to have the 100 by 150s. Now, you can get glass filters or polycarbonate like these are. Singh-Rays are made all in the US. Lee filters are made in England. If that makes a difference to you. Lee filters, Singh-Rays are made in Florida. Lee you can get in polycarbonate or in glass. They each have their advantages. I find, of course, if you bang your glass filters, they're going to break. I had a case where I was photographing with a custom-made filter from Singh-Ray. It cost me almost $500. And an elderly man walked by my tripod, hooked his foot on my tripod. It went down. It was a glass filter. It was broken to smithereens. But what I want to show you, and Bob, we're going to have to fiddle with this to show you the biggest disadvantage of these filters. So Bob, if we can get in close here and see if I can get the angle here right.
It's really hard to see on a live stream.
Say again?
It's going to be really difficult to see.
Yeah, it may be very difficult to see, as Bob points out, but I'm going to try to get the light. There it is. Where was it? Okay. Can you see the scratches? I'm going to go back and forth in the light here. The scratches on this filter. All right. I hope you are able to see it. All right, Bob, stay down. Stay looking down. I want to show them this. Can you get down to, yeah, they can see this, right? Yeah. These are 2, 4, 6, about 14 filters here, each one costing about $200 to $240. Each one, totally ruined. That's what I've been going through for years and years and years. Using these filters, they scratch so easily. Even though I do keep them in here. Now, Bob has a theory that it's the vibration in airplanes that in between here. It's hard for people to hear there. These fit in nicely, right? You can fit in a bunch, I think 8 in this little hive. But possibly that's one of the reasons. I just find that they scratch extremely easily, and it starts to be very expensive. I'm going through 6 or 8 of them a year, no matter what I do. And I'm very, very careful with my equipment. So I think you can well say, I don't think it's focused in, Bob.
I'm having a little trouble here.
Okay, that looks good. So you can see they're just, like this neutral density 4-stop, I can't even use. It's just so bad. All right. So we've talked about, the biggest problem, I think, with these polycarbonate filters. And so what I've always been looking for a better filter system, and frankly, I've been completely frustrated with it. And there's another issue, which this gentleman brought up, Andre brought up from Alberta. And that is that these filters, polycarbonate filters, were designed for cameras years and years ago that didn't have this high megapixel content, and for sensors that didn't also pick up infrared and ultraviolet light. Therefore, I have run into horrible problems with color casts on these things. Deep magenta color casts that I cannot do anything with in post-processing. They're just awful. And you never really know when that's going to happen. So in my research and exploring, a few months ago, I found a company. Like I said, I have nothing to do with them. I just spent a fortune in buying their material. And I would like to show it to you because it has solved my problems. I've become an absolute lover of their equipment. So what I'm going to do is, just to make it easier for me, I'm going to put this up here, Bob. So if you want to focus just on the camera once I get it up here. All right. And I'm dealing with a 77. Okay. So this company is known as Wine Country Camera. Wine Country Camera, and they make a filter system that is totally beyond belief. So I bought a package. They sell these things in packages. They sell it individually. You can buy just one filter or one filter holder or whatever, but they do sell it in packages. And I felt, if I'm going to test this out for you folks and for my own use, then I might as well buy the whole package. So this is the filter holder that comes with it. So I'll open it up. And when you open it, I have to say, the Lee system, the Singh-Ray, definitely the Koken, but it's probably like a Russian car. The other ones are like a Chevrolet. This is the Mercedes, if you will, of systems. So it comes in, this is the filter holder, all right? Let me just show you that first. So here's this is the filter holder, all right? And it's got rosewood handles on it. They have thought of everything. This is so well made. And unbelievably, I feel the price is quite reasonable. It actually comes with a polarizing filter attached. The polarizer is attachable, detachable, and it's regulated by this beautifully machined wooden knob, so cold weather won't bother you. You also need, of course, a ring to hold it. So I'm going to put on the ring now. Okay, and this goes on just nice, it nestles in really nice and easily. And I've got my system ready to go. And I'll tilt it this way a little bit so you can see what I'm trying to show you. I'm sorry if it messed up your focus, Bob. But you can see just by turning this, I have the ability to move my, and I do it with one finger here. I can just move my polarizer to suit. If I don't want the polarizer in, it has two levers, if you will. Whoops. Here we go. Two levers, one on each side, and you just, let me just do this. You just flip the levers like that, and the filter comes right out. Right? So I'm going to leave it in for now and close up shop there and let's go back to where I was. Let me remount this. Oop. There. Make sure that sits in there correctly. Oh, come on. I think I put it in backwards, did I? No, I didn't. Whoa, this is embarrassing. I don't know why that's happened here. I've done this a dozen times now, and all of a sudden I'm getting a hang up here. Okay, so I'm going to just get this back on here for a moment. Doesn't make a difference, because what I'm about to show you is, I think, the key to this whole system. We talked about neutral density filters, right? By the way, they recommend you use this Kinesis bag for it. I already had one, so that was good for me. It's similar to the Mindshift one, but this is what your neutral density filters look like. They are encased in a metal frame, so it avoids you having to touch the filter. It avoids scratches and breakage, which to me is important. As I mentioned to you, you just put that, you just get your filters in here, and you're ready. You've got a neutral density. This is a 10-stop. I also have a 3-stop. They've thought of everything. A way to grab it if you're so that you can take it out to do to get your exposure all set, and then you of course will have a calculator to calculate what your exposure would be with a 10-stop or a 12-stop or whatever you have. In addition, you've got your graduated neutral densities, and they come again in this wonderfully encased. These are glass, by the way. It's shot glass, a wonderful German company that makes this. Now watch this. It goes in there like that, but in order to get it to be where you want the light blockage to occur, there are two buttons here, one for the back slot, one for the front slot. You just press the appropriate slot in here, and this thing is so doggone responsive. Let me just make it so I can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so I have it in here now. Let me close that down. Turn it a little bit this way, okay? Is that better? Yeah. Okay. So when I press the button and let it go, it stops wherever I want. If you've ever had a problem with slippage, especially in cold weather, then you know that this is a lifesaver. It goes exactly where I want and no further. And if I let it go all the way, there's a stop, an automatic stop that stops it from falling through. So really a terrific system. And if I want to put in a second one here, you know, if I want to have a double, again, it's not going to go in until I press the button, and then it will slide exactly where I want it to go. All right? So a couple of things with this that I want to mention that I love. You're not going to get color casts with this. This glass is designed to, they test all of these filters, this whole system is tested on a 150 megapixel phase 1 camera. All right, 150 megapixel phase 1 camera. And that, so we know that there is absolutely, it's impervious, totally neutral, impervious to visible light, UV light, infrared light. So to answer your question, in Calgary, I think there's, you may want to, whether you replace with Lee or you jump to this system, which packs so nicely. I'm just loving it. I've used it almost every day for the last couple of months. Again, I want to take it out to remove it. Just take that, put it here, and you're set. So, you know, it's a really great system. I don't know how else to say it. If you want to rotate it, you know, you can do that and just reposition the screw. Simple system, very light, you know, it's all metal. But I think it's you know, a super system. Now, and again, it's all shot glass, you know, SCH, I think it is, SCHOTT, shot glass. So you're not going to get the color cast. You're going to avoid the scratching that happens by handling these plastic or, oh my God, the scuffs on here, you can't even believe how scratched up that one is looking at it in the light. Too bad you can't see it. So I've gone away from the others. I'm a convert. This is just a terrific system. I've got additional adapters for my lenses. So I have 3 adapters because 3 of my lenses have 3 different millimeter diameters. I think that's, you know, I can't say enough about this. So let me go to some questions here. Let's see. Hi, Susan, back to you. Koken. Koken system is C-O-K-I-N. C-O-K-I-N. Of all the systems I've mentioned, that's going to be the least expensive. And if I make a, if I, yeah, that's something I would suggest if you're just getting into filters. It's a good way to get started. One thing I forgot to mention with the filters, if you're using circular filters, let me jump back to that for a moment, and that is, I don't know if you folks have had this happen, especially in cold weather when you're, or you go from cold to hot weather, your filters expand and they tighten up so you can't get them off your camera, or you have 2 filters together and you can't separate them. There's a device that B&H and the others sell. It's basically 2 very, I don't know how to say, rubberized things. You just put one on each filter and they come right apart. They weigh nothing. I carry them if I'm going to be using circular filters, which, by the way, I've really stopped using now that I've been using this Wine Country camera system. So, you know, take your pick. But if you do use circular filters, spending $10 for those wrenches is a good idea. All right, so Kokin, C-O-K-I-N. Another person, wow, another person had a bad experience with Xume. I am so sorry to hear that. Like I said, my experience was good with them. Another person said they love their HIDA system, no color shift at all. Okay, that's good. Yes, glass, someone said, talk about glass versus the polycarbonates. I personally prefer the glass. I think the glass is easier to clean. There's less worry about with getting fingerprints on it, etc., because it cleans easily. But you know, they break, and unfortunately, if they break in a pouch, it will. If you have several glass filters, it might mean you're going to lose 2 or 3 of them. But you know, if you're careful, and what I went to after I had that serious breakage is just keeping each glass filter in a separate small case, hard case. That did away with the breakage problems, at least while they're in the case. The breakage problems reduced. But I also have to say that I've had some Lee glass filters break on me, shatter inside my hive because the luggage was mishandled or something like that. All right, let's see. Another person has had good luck with the case filters, K-A-S-E. Another person said they've used Xume for over a year and they're very happy with it. Let's see what else. Let's see, links to the products. Okay, can you put links to the products in the video? We will definitely do that, right, Bob?
Yeah.
We can do that, all right? I'll put links to everything that I've talked about here. But if you want to go to the wine camera, it's wine camera, I'm sorry, it's winecountry.camera. Winecountry.camera will take you right to the site. I think you'll be impressed with the research they've done, and the quality of the product is beyond belief. I just love it. So there's that. I'll put those in there. And the holder bag. Oh, the holder bag that Wine Country recommends. I've had this for years, actually. I've had it to Africa, I've had it to Asia, and wherever. It's Kinesis. It's called Kinesis, K-I-N-E-S-I-S, K-I-N-E-S-I-S. And their website is kgear.com, K-G-E-A-R.com. Again, I'll have it on the site. Let's see. What are your favorite lenses for the GFX system? Okay, I love my GFX system. I have the 50, I have the 100. If you go to my YouTube channel, you'll see I've done reviews on both the GFX 50S and the GFX 100. This is the this camera here that you're looking at is the GFX 100. So the lenses I use, the lens that's mounted on here is a 32-64. It's the only zoom I own. This is the 120 macro, which I have to say is, these two lenses, the 32-64 and the 120 macro, are my walk-around lenses. I use these almost every time I'm out. And the macro capability of this lens is amazing. The quality of the images, the files are incredible. This this is the my 23 millimeter. It's equivalent to about a 17 to an 18 and 35 millimeter parlance. So it's a 23 millimeter. By the way, that 120 is equivalent to about a 90 in 35 millimeter. And then I have the Bazooka. This is the 250, which is a terrific lens also. And very, very sharp. Focuses very, very nicely. And I use that with a 1.4 tele extender as needed. So those are my 4 lenses.
If you only had one, which one would you buy?
If I only had one lens, and I actually started out this way, I would definitely recommend the 32-64. It's a really nice lens. It's, you know, it's heavy just like a full-frame DSLR is nowadays, but the 32-64 is great for portraits. Since it's a 32, it's like, this is 32-64 is sort of like a 24-50 in 35 millimeter terms. So it's good for wide angles. You can get really nice landscape images, great for architecture, and it also, at 64, so it'd be a 50, it's a normal lens, so it's great for walk around. If you're going to walk around you know, a new city or a rural area in Africa, this is a really good lens to have. For you, you can look at my review of it, but for you, those of you who have not seen my review of this, you might, if you do buy this system, you definitely want to get this articulated viewfinder because it is so helpful on a number of levels. I would say that you should, you know, take a look at getting that. If you know, with the 100. Okay. Let's see, name of the filter bag holder for Wine Country. I just told you that. That's Kinesis. Wonderful question. Let's see, Chris asks, hi Chris. Chris asks, do you feel the large dynamic range of medium format sensors reduces the need for graduated filters given their greater ability to make adjustments in post? Absolutely. Agree, Chris. While I still use a graduated neutral density, you know, when I'm out, the truth of the matter is it's not as critical anymore. I mean, my Fuji has a good 15 stop range, dynamic range. So what I typically do is expose for the highlights, the shadows I can bring up easily. So it's not that usual that I'm, let's put it this way, I probably have reduced my need for a graduated neutral density filter by about half. But it has, of course, not taken there's nothing I can do about a neutral density filter. If you've got to slow down the water, you've got to slow down the water. So that's all there is to it. Okay, so thank you, Ralph. I appreciate the comment. Ralph was mentioning about the videos I've done on panorama photography, nodal points, and how to shoot a panorama. So, excuse me. I think that about does it. If there are any other questions, again, I don't know the HIDA system, so I really cannot comment on it. And if you're thinking of replacing your Lee filters because of the infrared pollution or the color casts, and I'm telling you that's a real problem, the color cast, then you might want to think about this Wine Country. I can't say enough about them. I just wish that they were a little less expensive, but they are actually in the same price range as the Singh-Rays and the Lees. Each individual one of these is about $225, I think, which is about the same as those plastic filters. And by the way, I should mention, if you already own Lee or Singh-Ray, you can still use the Wine Country. The Singh-Ray and 100 by 150s fit right into this frame. So you can actually use yours, whether they be plastic or glass.
Can you buy the frames?
Say that?
Can you buy the frames?
Yes, the frames, they sell the frames separately, Wine Country. I bought a package. It cost me somewhere around $1,000, so that I know that's pricey. But those of you who use filters know that is just about, that included the mounting, this system, the whole system. I think it's a great value. I personally don't think it's it's all photography gear is expensive. Let's face it, but it's like the old joke, that goes like this. You remember that friend that got you into photography? Yeah. Well, maybe he wasn't a friend after all. Which is probably true when you think about how much money we spend on all our gear. But anyway, I thank you for watching. Make sure there are no other Questions? Nope, that's it for now. And next week we'll be back next Wednesday with another webinar. I'll let you know what actually that webinar will be about. If you subscribe to our mailing list, you'll know what it'll be. Thanks a lot for watching. Take care.